Thank you once again for joining us for another episode of the More People Podcast. You are blessed once more today by talking to myself, Andrew Fitzmaurice, CEO of More People, and Richard Hanwell, MD at More People. So we've done this before.
Indeed.
And as ever, we can soapbox and talk about a lot of things. But I thought we'd try and do one where we dumb it right down, which should be easy for us, to talk about what even is recruitment. So people are out there thinking about a career in it. Maybe people are candidates or clients and they don't really understand it because they've not worked on our side of the fence. So starter for 10, what even is recruitment?
I remember way back when looking for a job with less hours and that didn't quite pan out. But it is a lot of fun. But it's a massive job because you've got to juggle so many different balls and you've got to be on top of your game and you've got to be evolving and changing. But whenever we conduct interviews, as you well know, and talking to graduates or anyone that's looking to get into the industry and go, what's your typical day? And we both kind of laugh about that question because no 2 days are the same. That sounds corny as hell, but the reality is that you're coming in, yes, you're taking a look at advert response, but writing an advert, expectations of adverts are a bit like buying a lottery ticket. You know, you're never going to win unless you buy one, but your expectations aren't that high. And then it's about getting out there and networking as much as you possibly can from a candidate perspective, a talent perspective, dealing with the emergency needs of clients and customers and the slightly more talent pooling side of things, and then juggling the act between retained search and contingency work. But above all, you've got to have the desire and the ability to be on the phone or face-to-face with people pretty much all day, every day. You can add a huge amount of value to candidates and customers. And as you well know, 20 years down the line, you consider a lot of these people to be really good friends. It is hard and it constantly changes, whether it be with technology, AI, what have you, the changing face of internal recruitment, constantly fighting that perception of recruitment. But for people that want to get into the industry, I think they've got to dare to dream a bit, but they've also got to understand that it's not a case of nice job order from said customer, place advert, speak to 50 people that really want to talk to you, and then present the top 10%. That would be glorious, wouldn't it?
You know, we spend a lot of time interviewing people who haven't worked in recruitment before. They've seen the Instagram, they've seen the LinkedIn. In the absence of a better idea, which is true for me, probably the same for you as well. In the absence of a better idea, I'll give that a go. And they send off an application. And we spend more time in interviews explaining what the job actually is sometimes, and us talking than we do asking questions, because you have to educate them.
Yeah, we sell against it hard, right?
Well, I'd rather talk them out of it and don't work in it if it's not going to last and find out now.
Yeah.
Or tell them both sides of the story and allow them to make an informed decision based on knowing all of it. It'd be too easy, wouldn't it, to sell all the upside without talking about the downside, getting somebody in and then expectations being so skewed and them hating it and jacking it in long before they make a mark on the industry or become profitable or even start to enjoy it, because the early months when you don't know the sector, you don't really know recruitment, you don't have a pool of people and a network, they're arguably the hardest bits, right?
Well, we've all got the tales, right, of people coming in going, I don't get it. Someone's applied to this job advert and they look great and they won't answer the phone. Welcome to my world.
Yeah.
That's what happens. But the reality is, I think the good outweighs the bad tenfold. It's just the bad weighs in your mind a lot longer at times.
But it's somewhere between having the social work element of caring through to the not quite hard-nosed sales end of the spectrum, but the sales process elements where you have to accept there are sales funnels, which are usually drawn on every flat surface in the office to explain this is how the recipe works. And it's not to say that it's a numbers game where you just fling the proverbial against the wall and see what sticks. You're trying to do as much high quality stuff as possible, whilst simultaneously accepting that a lot of the stuff you do is low probability.
Oh, incredibly.
Because the odds are always stacked against you. It's not to say low probability because we are speculating on something that's no good. It's just that the law of averages and the probabilities in general are there's 4 or 5 candidates for a job and there's only one job. So you can only succeed 20% of the time.
There's 2 main things that I think you learn through experience in recruitment around that point. And it's you've got to ask the awkward questions Ask the questions you might not like the answers to. You've A, got to ask them, and B, you've got to ask them early, because getting to that point, it's going to come out of the wash anyway. In your early years, you're looking to fill every single job today. And it's a great mindset to have, and you can't knock that enthusiasm. But you've got to take time out of your day, your week, your month to go and fill your own talent pool again and again. We've all got to that point 1 year, 2 years in, earlier nowadays, where we think we've completed it. And right, I've got my pool of candidates. I know what I'm doing. I hover around and I move X, Y, Z around. It's never the case. But if you understand the need to be out there networking all the time, right? It's Princess Anne saying, if you're not networking, you're not working, is a fantastic quote. And I think that's exactly spot on. But it takes a while because you're always busy, right? You're always busy. How do you shoehorn this time in to randomly build up your talent pool for the wider desk of, for example, technical within the food industry or produce industry or hort industry? You've got to do it. And if you don't do it, you may fill all of your jobs and then you've got to start again, or you might be in a situation where some of them fall by the wayside, your funnel's not full, so some of them fall over, and then you've got to start again anyway. But I think constantly networking, constantly being out there, and discipline, being disciplined to do it, and being disciplined to put yourself in not awkward situations, but comfort zones and what have you. We've been to many a dinner where you're almost shot to pieces by the time you get there, but you know the right thing to go in there and give it your all. And by the time you finish, you feel pretty damn good about it. You can dine out in it for a period of time, and then it will come back and win.
The bit that I always think is overlooked as well when it comes to recruitment is the customer service element. And we've learned probably the hard way through making lots of mistakes, which arguably they're mistakes that the team now don't have to make because they could just learn from ours. But the customer service element, to go the extra mile, I think in recruitment is where you can stand out head and shoulders above the rest and increase those odds. So if I think about preparing candidates for interview, for example, I think when I first started, I spent so much time sourcing the candidates and headhunting because it was a market where no one would apply to an ad really, so you had to go and cajole them out of a competitor. Then if you got the interview request, that was the celebrate moment, and then sent them off on their way and hope that then everything sorted itself out. And then I very quickly realized that you put so many hours to get to that point, why wouldn't you now kill both the client and the candidate with kindness by doing absolutely everything that you can possibly do to increase all of the odds, but also all of the experience for both the client and the candidate, that it goes smoothly and they're impressed with what you've done. But also in other ways to value add to candidates and clients. So if people aren't going to be hiring today or moving jobs tomorrow, what can you do to be top of mind, and how do you add value so that it's a nice beneficial experience where you feel cared for? You feel like you've got a representative 24/7, 365, and you don't pay them for the majority of the time. That to me is mind blowing and such a good way to stand out as a recruiter. But the point of this conversation to a degree is to articulate some of these things that I think candidates and clients don't actually not appreciate, they just don't know it goes on to the level that it does.
Yeah, I can imagine from a customer's perspective that they don't want to hear from us all the time. I get that. They're really busy individuals, but equally you don't want to see an article in one of the trade mags saying they've just been bought out or they've just had X amount of investment. Their phones must be off the hook from recruiters going to, what are your recruitment needs then? Well, I've not heard from you in X,
you only call when you want something.
Exactly, right? So it's about adding the value, whether it can be on the multiple amounts of white papers that we write. There's one recently with succession planning, or whether it be salary surveys, or whether it be a case of, we know you guys and we've generated a candidate you've not requested, but we do know you and we do think they're a cultural match. Do you want to have a conversation now? You haven't asked for it, it's fine. And that can be perceived as salesy. And if it was done all the time, then it's rubbish, right? If it's genuinely and it's authentic, and you're going to said customer going, look, these are hard to find, right? I've got an individual, they've mentioned you. Are you interested? If not, it's fine. We'll have other options. I think that's a genuine value add. Is it always perceived as that? Maybe not. It's a bit like friends. If you're only contacting your friends when it's your birthday and you want a big turnout for your birthday, then that's a bit crap, right? You've got to maintain that contact, that rapport, and the authenticity that you do care. you do want to hear about what's going on, and all of the best accounts are based around better levels of relationships. You've got to be allowed in. You've got to have an individual on the other end that wants to hear and listen, and see the value add. But again, sometimes it takes time. You have to keep knocking on the door and seeing what's what. From a candidate perspective, how many times we ring a candidate, I'm not looking for a job, and it gets shut down. And I get it, I 100% get it. You know, if the estate agent rang me every week, I'm not selling my house, I'll stop taking the phone call. But at some stage, they may well need us, whether it's building their own team out or whether it's a case where, no, actually, for unforeseen circumstances, I'm now looking for a new role, or for unforeseen circumstances, I need to earn extra money for whatever reason. Whatever it may be, it's worthwhile having that contact there. I think from a candidate perspective, on a perm front, yeah, a lot of candidates get it. On an interim front, I think the candidates get it even more. Is the nature of how they operate, although they have a lot more relationships themselves as well. But if you get a good recruiter and they actually understand the space and they're specific within their industries, potentially worth their weight in gold, because you don't want to wait until the 11th hour when you need them.
But it takes time to get to that point, doesn't it? Yeah. And I think it's another one of those paradoxes that you want to hire recruiters or hire people who are intrinsically impatient, because that drives a desire to get things done and be busy and be active and chase things down. But I think people expect to come into recruitment and smash it and have the Porsche 911 by the 4th month they've worked here.
So wait for mine.
Me too. One day. Yeah. But in reality, it takes time to forge the relationships and build the trust and have the authenticity. You know, to use your friend analogy, you'll know your friend's kids' names, you'll know your friend's birthday, you'll know your friend's interests and football team and what's going on in their life and what all the drama pain points are. Yeah. Hence, you can have an authentic, credible, long-term relationship, and you'll be there when they need you. You can't fast track that with one sales call to a client or a candidate. You've got to have that staying power to have the conversation often enough that you pick up these grains on the breadcrumbs on the trail to understanding the bigger picture. And then you can authentically go back and be a value add because you're in possession of that knowledge. If you don't find it out, or you don't hang around in recruitment long enough, you'll never get to the point where you can weaponize and utilize that knowledge, because you haven't yet gained enough of it. And I think that's why it has a turnover of staff which is greater than we'd like it to be, and greater than the average for other industries, because people expect it all tomorrow.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But I think here's the problem, right? Recruitment doesn't have a governing body. You're not a fully qualified recruiter. You couldn't go to law school, come and join a law firm and be trusted with massive cases straight away without somebody holding your hand, or even being able to do a lot of the work. It takes years to go from associate up through the ranks, and the same in accountancy, the same in medicine, and so on and so forth. In recruitment, you do have people with less patience. They probably follow the dream a bit too quick, and that age-old quote, you know, people are always jealous of you at the top of the mountain. They're not jealous of the climb, right? So it is going back to the hard work and going like, right, yes, I want all those nice things. Yes, that individual's got that car, that lifestyle, or just that legacy, that reputation within the industry. But it wasn't given to them. A lot of hard graft. I often say to the team, I've made more mistakes than all of them put together times by 10. And you do, but it's because I've took more shots, right? And I've stayed on the training ground longer, and I'll probably put a little bit more graft in at times.
Final question, is it worth it?
Hell yeah, definitely, 100%, wouldn't change it. You?
Same.
Good.
Apply here.
Definitely.
Thanks, Rich.
Cheers, mate.